Good morning, everyone. So, welcome to the first session of Town Talk webinar session. Today, for the discussion, we are having one of veteran psychologists, Rashini Bandara. Rashini, welcome to the show.
Hi, Prashali. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, it's pleasure us to having you too. The objective of this session is educate the public about the society, the current situation and pandemic of the mental health. So let us start. I would like to ask, according to your perspective, what do you mean by mental health?
Well, Prashali, if you kind of look into the whole WHO definition of health, right? It merely says that it is more not just absence of illness, right? But it's mostly physical, mental, emotional, psychological, social well-being, right? So when it comes to, I would say, when you say mental well-being, it mostly is your psychological and your emotional fitness when it comes to your mentality. So you can't exactly take away mental health away from physical health. Both pretty much go hand in hand. I mean, whatever you are experiencing physically, right, it affects your mentality. And then if you are going through a certain mental struggle, that is demonstrated to your physicality as well. So it's interdependent on each other. So I think just like we are pretty much conscious of keeping our physical health and a physical hygiene, likewise, I think mental hygiene and mental fitness is absolutely essential for any individual.
Thank you very much for your truthful definition, Rashini. Here I have another question coming. Now you spoke about it has a correlation between physical health and mental health. Can you just define and bit of explain what do you mean by that? How its correlation come?
Actually, Vishal, I'll take like very, very simple examples and explain it to you. See, sometimes when we are excessively scared of something and we feel very hyper vigilant about something, you know, obviously you see certain physical symptoms popping out of people. For example, I personally have had experience of friends and family who got excessive exam fear, and when an exam is nearby you develop like sometimes even certain eczema and even diarrhea conditions like that. When you kind of go through proper examinations, then nothing's wrong with you, to be very honest. No food poisoning, no allergy, anything. But deep inside, that particular exam fear is they are an individual. I mean, even if you kind of take the situation that we are going through nowadays, like you mentioned earlier about the COVID situation, when people are very much hyper vigilant and scared about such things, of course people started demonstrating a lot of physical symptoms as well. For example, headaches, which has no I would say no proper root cause, or why is it happening. Or else some people even go through condition like I mentioned earlier, like diarrhea, and even certain anxiety attacks as well. So all these things are because of the psychological struggles that you are going through. And at the same time, I must say, there are so many individuals in this world who fight illnesses like cancer, right, just because of the fact that they have a very strong mindset and a willpower. At the same time, let's say you don't need to generally get a very chronic illness to die. Some people just get depressed, and that itself lead to death in most situations. So therefore, your mentality has a massive role to play when it comes to your physical health.
Yes, thank you very much. And Rashini, here now I have a question. You talk about kind of illness we are getting due to the not having a right mental stability. Here, what are the worst illness we are getting for the mental illness?
Well, you can pretty much go into the extreme version where it's schizophrenia, right? And but what we should generally talk about here is especially that, I always tell this to people that just because you go through a massive struggle in life, or a traumatic event, the day after, if you face a major trauma, you don't get into conditions like depression or even anxiety. It's a process. So we start off with very little stressors and not dealing with such things properly. Sometimes you worry about certain things and you're not actually addressing these problems. When you do not deal with these situations, all these little concerns or little irritations or frustrations, collection of that will lead on to bigger problems later on in your life, right? Sometimes we think, oh yeah, what, let's forget it, let's not deal with it right now, right? And then you think after some time, it's over, I've forgotten it. No, you have never forgotten it. I would say anything, starting from relationships, starting from certain fears about certain decision making in life, all these things at the end will lead on to something really big if you do not deal with it in the right manner. So that's why it's scary. And so I must say, as an individual who's been through so much in life as well, I did not get into depression or anything because I kind of reached out and sought help. I'm also somebody who actually felt suicidal at one point in my life. But I actually was lucky enough, I was brave enough to actually go and even speak to somebody, at least a friend, let it out, vent it out, the issues that I was going through or the emotional struggles that I was going through, which actually helped me out. So that is the main reason why I think I'm in this particular field as well, to help individual, to give that courage for them to vent out the issues that they are going through. Because I think people feel still we have a lot of negative stigma around this whole concept of mental health. When you say mental health or when you say psychology, we completely attach it to Angoda Hospital or a mental asylum. And very recently also I spoke about this in a suicide prevention awareness program, that just because sometimes people come out with their struggles, right, that doesn't mean that they are weaker in personality. So people feel, if I openly speak about the fact that I'm sad or upset, or I feel awful, that means that I lack personality. It's not that. So I also tell that, there is another particular stereotype that we are fighting. It's that, see, for example, us women, we are given permission to be very emotional, sensitive, and all that. If we do not possess those qualities, we are considered as, we are not qualified to be women. But the thing is, it's the complete opposite when you look at men, right? And the way you kind of perceive men, or the stereotype that men has to live with, that they're all the tough and I have taken, I have everything together, that kind of personality. So you think just because you be vocal about your emotions, people think you'll be more of a woman and very less of a man, which is absolutely not true. So demonstrating your emotions, being very vocal about your emotions and struggles that you're going through will only establish one thing, that you are human. Very recently, I mean, yesterday I released a video on that as well. So that is what people need to understand. And that is the very reason, Prashali, that in a country or in the world where we are so running after empowering women, there are so many men who go through, actually the majority, men go through mental health related problems. Majority of men go through cardio related problems, type A diabetes, right? All these things have a connection to mental health. Okay. So then I think that somewhere we have gone wrong. So we need to pretty much put a lot of awareness and a lot of emphasis on this topic, whereas we address the very little things in life. We look into the foundations and primary factors that we should look into, rather than looking into things when it goes, out of control. So that is what I have to say.
Okay, Rashini. Next, I have a question regarding the pandemic. Now, you spoke about many men and women facing mental health problems. In case, tell me what are the ways they distract according due to the pandemic? How they can distract their mental health because we are now, especially in indoors, with indoors environment, how it can be impact to the people.
So, Peshali, at this moment, like I can pretty much sum up the whole thing in like one line given by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. It says that I'm not okay, you're not okay, but that's okay, right? 'Cause none of us are okay. I always tell this to people, look, if you all are thinking that since I'm a mental health care professional, I have things covered and I'm facing the pandemic so well, believe me, it's not. It's affecting me as well. I mean, it's a condition which is affecting entire humanity, regardless of fact, regardless of whatever the field you are in, regardless of your age or gender. It's affecting every individual, but in different contexts. So, for example, if I tell you that, because the thing is, especially we have from the day that we are born, we have conditioned our life in a way that, we wake up in the morning, we go to school or either to university or to work, we come back home. It's a routine. Even though that we know we have on and off, we travel here and there and do all the other things, but our system is used to a certain routine. Our system is, we are social beings as well. We need to be around people. That's essential to us. So when you take Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you need love and belongingness and, those social interactions as well. But the thing is, what has now happened is that, you are pretty much restricted to a certain area. Your life has come to a standstill. Initially, when this happened, you could actually pretty much identify this trend over social media. The first few weeks, let's say, when the lockdown happened and this whole concept came, was something very new to us. And we were enjoying it, to be very honest. You could see all the memes that were shared on Facebook. It was really, you will have like an LOL moment every time when you look at it. So it's more like people were going through more of a very anesthetic process. Like you have gone under surgery, now you're anesthesia, you don't feel anything. But then later on, when people realize that, oh my God, this is actually affecting our life, then it became a big problem. Because usually, I'm going to take a little lengthier time to explain this. See, initially, like there are a lot of people who complain the fact, oh my God, you know what, I don't have like enough time to read a proper book, right? I don't have time to watch a movie from start to the end. I do not have time to spend with my parents, right? I'm all the time in work or either I'm in school, like I don't have a life, right? So people used to complain of these things. And then now you are given all the time to be at home. Okay. You are given all the time to watch all the movies, read all the books that you wanted to read, right? Sleep and sleep and sleep, right? And your parents are around you 24/7. Now you realized, oh my God, the freedom that I was actually searching for, I used to get it when I was in school. Oh, I used to get it when I was in university. I used to get it when I was working. Not now. This is not freedom. So people going through certainty, that means a monotonous way of life, like with a sudden change. And then at the same time, uncertainty that's inside them because of all this fear that people develop regarding a lot of things. Fear of walking out, right? Fear of the fact that parents, they fear about the well-being of their children. Now, earlier, if a mother or a father, if your child gets sick, you don't think twice to rush to the hospital to take your child to a specialist. Now, can you do that now without fear? A lot of people who got older parents, they worry because of the fact that you can't just rush them to a hospital, take them to a doctor, go for a monthly checkup and all that without being afraid. And so many people have job uncertainty issues. You'll never know when you will lose your job. right? You'll never know the next time that you get an email, right, whether it says something about a pay cut, right? At the same time, there are so many frontliners who might get even a bonus, right? At the end of the day, leave aside losing the job, they will get a bonus, but they are putting their life at risk every day. And those things can be issues to people. At the same time, when you look at students and little ones, right, then even boredom and frustration can be a very big problem. So you can't just say, my problem is bigger because I'm losing my job. You're just having boredom. That's a lesser problem. You can't. Because us individuals, we are very different from person to person. So the way these things affect us is very, very different. And even now, just about a couple of minutes ago, I received a text from this girl saying, Miss, I cannot concentrate. How can you concentrate? Because when you wake up in the morning, you get dressed to go to school, go to university, or go to work, right? It kind of sends a signal to your brain, look, now get ready, you're going to work, you're going to study. You go to school, you see the environment, you sit in an environment that's actually giving you all the reinforcers for you to study, or all the motivation for you to study. But now you're at home, you wake up in the morning in your night suit, you drag the laptop and put it onto your lap. And how on earth are you going to convince your mind that you are ready to work? So people are absolutely losing concentration. So if you are an individual who's going through anger issues, going through lack of concentration, irritations, and all those things, I must say that you are absolutely normal. Don't think, oh my God, I have some sort of an abnormality. You are normal, because these are normal reactions that individuals demonstrate when they are going through such a massive struggle, right? Mental struggle. At the same time, Peshali, I would like to tell you that not just adults, sometimes adults think, you know what, it's us who's going through a problem. Believe me, your kids are sick and tired of watching you 24/7. Right? There are so many kids who tell, I need a break. I'm enough. I'm sick and tired of seeing mommy and daddy. Right? Because before the pandemic, the stats came that about 6.3 billion children in this world were going through anxiety and depression before the pandemic. Starting age is age 3. Okay. So that is not a joke. You are a 3-year-old and you are prone to experience anxiety and depression is scary. Right? So these statistics only from age 3 to 17. So every individual, right? Every individual, regardless of their age, their gender, their social status, or whether you're a strong personality or weaker personality, we all are affected. Right? So it's a matter of finding, or else it's a matter of seeing things and accepting certain things, right? And then actually facing it. And that also, I think, changes from person to person. And it always depends on the way you look at it, Peshali, coming to the end. I mean, there's no particular pill that you can just swallow and then you will feel all right for this. You need to convince your mindset. You need to work with your mindset. And then only I think you can pretty much come out of this.
Yes, Rashini. With that point, I would like to ask how you see a situation like mother tend to break the lockdown regulation for her children, containing with the food and income. So how you see that situation?
Well, it's a very sensitive situation, Peshali. I mean, to be very honest, I myself, as a mother, I wouldn't think of going out during the pandemic. But if it is like my kids who are crying for food and all that, it actually puts me in a very, very tough situation. Right? These are very, very, very sensitive things, because it's a matter of your life. At the same time, it's a matter of who matters to you the most. So I think if you're looking at the fact of how rulers can actually come up with a solution for this situation, I would say that there's a lot of empathy we need in this case, right? More than the whole power and politics playing a major role. I think as individuals, as humans, we have to think about it. So, a mother going out of her way, even putting her life at risk for her children, is a very sensitive and a topic that any person, any individual, you don't have to be a mother to actually feel it. You can pretty much empathize that situation. So I think providing maximum support and help in situations and conditions like that is something that you should think of. I think I spoke about the fact that we are so hell bent in I think going after empowering women. I think what we should pretty much empower is humanity, because that is what we are losing in so many different ways. So I would say it's a tough call. It's a very sensitive thing, because people say, you know what, it's okay, you stay at home, don't go out because you're putting your life at risk. But if it is concerning your children, parents have unconditional love for their children. They're the only people who can put themselves before their kids. I don't think there's any particular love that is as strong as that. So that should be looked in a very, very emotional point of view and a very empathetic point of view.
Okay, Ashini. Next, I would like to ask, what do you think about social media distraction relating to mental health? Because we have seen many social media posting several types of posts regarding pandemic and everything. Now we are at indoor, so we are seeing that post. How we can maintain our mental stability with social media?
Well, actually, the thing is, Peshali, now as individuals, we have another big problem at stake, and that is technology addiction. So now it's also, there is a brand new term called tech autism as well in children. Because, just like how people would, focus themselves into certain addictions like, alcohol or nicotine and, drugs and all those substances. Now, technology is another addiction of that sort as well. And people say it's equivalent. You can actually put it as a substance abuse, because we are with it all the time. I mean, we cannot separate it out of our lives now. And I know for a fact there are a lot of individuals who think, let me just quickly glance at Facebook and come, and you spend about 2 to 3 hours doing that, and you have absolutely no idea. Okay, it's very addictive because of the fact that, earlier we had to go after information. I still remember the struggle that we used to go through, even to download something from internet. Right, we had to go through books and all those things, but then now it's just a click away, and there's like floodgates of information flowing onto you. Right, this minute it's something, next minute it's updated. So it's more like I would say giving those small kicks to people. Right, it's more like every time you see something, like it's like a dopamine shot that you get. That's the happy hormone that we have, right? The dopamine. So it's released onto the system, just like when you see so many likes onto your profile picture or something, you get like a floodgate of dopamine into your system. And who wants to stay away from dopamine? And especially when you are going through issues like this. Let's say you are really frustrated, your life, you feel like I have no purpose, I'm just indoor and staying, and then suddenly you have a rush of dopamine. That's what you want to be with. So there's nothing, I would say, humanly nothing wrong in people, right, getting addicted to something that makes them happy. But at the end of the day, it's actually kind of spoiling you, right, and making your life quite bad in a way that it's physically affecting you and it's mentally affecting you. Because if at one point this dopamine stops, that means it makes you really like a very put off situation. It can make you angry, it can make you really frustrated, and you can even demonstrate temper tantrums as well. You see, you snatch a laptop or a tab from a child's hand and see how they are reacting. right? They won't eat, they are on a massive riot. So see, such things are now showing, and at the same time it's affecting your sight, it's affecting your posture. A lot of people are getting neck issues and all those things because so many hours and hours of seated in front of a laptop and all that. And at the same time, I would say even sitting down is bad, as it's equivalent to like consuming about 2 to 3 cigarettes a time. That's what people say. Sitting down is really bad. So it's a condition that we can't 100% take away from people, because you need to have it. At the same time, it's causing a lot of problems also. See, if I go a little out of the topic here, Peshali, social media is a platform, whereas earlier, when you kind of look at the mainstream media, people need to have a credibility in order to put something out there, right? You need to be a credible individual to say something, right? You need to be a responsible individual to say something, because if somebody questions you, then there's always so many people backing you up. Now here, when it comes to social media, it's more like, just let's just take this example, like somebody writing something on Sigiriya the wall, let's say some poetry or something, and publishing, and then somebody writing in a washroom wall, right? You can write anything, you can say anything, right? And you are not accountable for it also, right? And at the same time, there's a lot of hate speech and all those things rotating around social media as well. So many people say so many things, and little children and teenagers get really distracted with all these things. Sometimes you might exactly not know whom to listen to, right? You will not understand the level of credibility in people when they say something, right? They are not accountable of what they are saying as well. They just write whatever they feel like writing, whether it's racism, whether it's sexism, whether it's something judgmental, whether it's some thought that just pops into their heads, right? And you need to be very accountable of these things. I know for a fact, very recently I heard this particular statement which was given out by somebody who calls him or herself a mental health care professional, saying that homosexuality is a disease, right? So that is a very, very bad statement, because it was taken away from the DSM-3, Diagnostic Statistical Manual, right? Because now we are on to DSM-5. So if you are a mental health care professional, these are fundamental things. So you need to be very accountable of what you're saying. Okay. So such credibility is not out there. That's the problem. So any Tom, Dick, and Harry can say whatever they want. And then you have a massive number of following, right? People are spreading so much of hatred, and there are so many people supporting those things, right? So to what extent it's right, it's always a question, right? Therefore, I think as responsible adults, as parents, people should be really cautious of individuals spending so much of time around social media. I think those are some of the things that we should be really, really mindful of.
Okay, Hashin. Now I would like to ask next question relating to the social media as well. Impact to the we have seen several emojis like haha, like sad emotion, like that. We have seen many emotions. So I have seen some Sri Lankans tend to respond some posts with the funny, with even for the COVID death. So how we can overcome this situation as a nation, because this should be addressed as a nation, I think. So what's your perspective in this regard?
So the thing is, Peshali, like, most individuals, I mean, earlier I would say, maybe witnessing someone's death, right? Those things are shocking factors. I would say people, would think 2 or 3 times even to post a photograph or a picture on a newspaper. I mean, we are a country that we've been through a 30-year-old war. That is not something we can easily forget. And you could see that sometimes how traumatizing it was to turn a newspaper to see all these bomb blasts and everything. It breaks your heart. But now what has happened is, for people, even selling someone's death is like, okay, if I get more reach and more likes and all those things is what actually matters. So human life has gone into that extent. That is why I said, Peshali, earlier that, when we are hell-bent after topics and empowering things that, I don't think it's necessary. What we should mainly focus is on empowering humanity. That is what we are losing. People are losing empathy, right? People are losing the fact that what would happen to those people, those individuals who lose a loved one. Now, yesterday, this one of these little nangis whom I know personally, who's actually running a preschool, just texted me and asked, Akka, I have an issue because this one child who's 4 years old lost his father due to COVID, and they have told him that he's in the hospital. And now how can I prepare him to accept his death? Now imagine a situation like that. Now for a moment, it actually, I don't know, I felt numb for a moment, because myself as a mom of 2 kids, and then imagine if such a news, I will have to break it to my children, or else if my husband has to break it to my children, the situation that they would go through. I think this is what we are missing as individuals. So we are so hell-bent in all these things that's around us, all these fabricated things, that we are forgetting the fundamental factor that we are all human. We have feelings, we have emotions. That is why, Peshali, that when it comes to relationships, it's like 2-minute noodles now. Right? When it comes to the rate of child abuse and all those things are increasing in this world. Right? It's the reason why people are not even bothered, a bit, when you have children being affected as collateral damage for wars that's fought between adults. It hurts. Even quite recently, I put a post regarding the whole Palestine and the Israel attacks. I mean, I would say, I cannot say the Israelis are right, or I cannot say the Palestinians people are right. Everybody has their side of the story. But what I stated was that, no child deserved to be collateral damage of such things. Look at the childhood that they are living. Right? And where are we going as humans? Where are we leading ourselves as humans? And these are some of the things that we should think about. So death is not something that is funny, because it's going to come to you as well. When it happens to you, think about the fact that, are you ready to share a post of your relatives, right? A post of a loved one of yours, right? And go ha about it. Right? If you are ready to do that, do it for someone, because we are losing the fundamental, I would say, the most golden rule, I would say, habit that we should have. It's treat other people the way you want to be treated. Would you want a death of a loved one of yours to be a mockery out there? Then do it. Right? Next time you also go ha hoo about it. But if you are not ready to do it to yourself, if you are not ready to do it to a loved one of yours, don't do it for someone as well. Right? Whether it's your worst enemy or whoever, because it's going to come to you as well.
Of course, Rashini. Now I would like to ask regarding emotion. What is the best strategy you recommend in managing anger, especially relating to the current context, relating to pandemic?
If you are getting angrier these days, like I said, Vaishali, you are absolutely normal. So first of all, take a deep breath and embrace that. So I'm normal if I'm getting angrier. But I think it's more like the anger changes from person to person. That is what sometimes people need to understand. Now, let's say, for example, I'm doing anger management here now. Okay. And you come to me for therapy. Right? The reason why you're getting angry, right, or the external situations that actually triggering that anger in you, it's very different, Peshal. So just like that, let's say some other individual, let's say Nehansa comes, right? I hope Nehansa is listening, right? So let's say if Nehansa comes to me with an anger issue, it's another different context and a story there again. So I can't be having one particular outfit that will fit you and Nehansa both, right? It has to be very tailor-made. It has to be very custom-made. And that is something you need to understand. Okay, so whoever that popped that question, right, I would like to tell you, if you like to personally get connected to me, you can, and then maybe after looking at what are the things that's triggering your anger, then I should be able to help you more, right? So you can actually get connected to me on Mind Heals platform. We are Sri Lanka's first ever online counseling platform, or even I'm available on all social media as well. So reach out to me, right, regarding this issue. But generally, if I'm to tell you, I think being mindful about what's happening, because I mainly do a lot of work with regard to emotional intelligence, right? It's a matter of understanding what makes you angry. So if you kind of have a proper analysis about yourself, you will know that certain situations trigger this anger to you. Or maybe certain people, right? What you can do is, first of all, try to maintain like a mood graph. Now, don't think this is child's play, right? Maintain a mood graph and see whether morning, evening, morning, afternoon, night, like whether how your mood is from 0 to 10 on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being really bad, 10 being really good. So just see how your mood kind of changes. If you're sitting down for a board meeting and your mood is 0, then you know the fact that, what is actually triggering that particular anger or frustration in you. So then you take measures to deal with that situation really well. And other than that, I would say generally, deep breathing really helps you. Right? Deep breathing means that 5 times or even 10 times. Relaxation techniques will really help you. If you are angry, one thing you can do, just look at your palms, because your palms have the ability to, make your eyes really relaxed, right? So therefore, take your thumb and run your thumb on every finger, looking at it, that when you're slowly breathing. That is one thing you can do. You can get into, if you're not somebody who can meditate, just like me, I cannot do that. So if you cannot do that, then I would say a technique like adult coloring. You can Google and see whether that's like really fine art that you can spend some time and color it. It actually builds up your focus, your attention at the same time. It relaxes you as equivalent to meditation. Right. So those are some of the things that you can do. And even reading is really good. So some of the techniques that you can do, breathing, relaxation breathing, listen to relaxation tapes and all that. So make sure when you're going to bed, you go to bed doing some relaxation, right? Don't just go and fall asleep. And when you wake up in the morning also, try to do a little bit of breathing and get out of bed. So these are some of the things that you can generally do. But other than that, if you have a condition and you feel like this needs to be addressed, I suggest that, you reach out to a mental health care professional and then talk about it, because these are some of the things that people go through. These are very, very normal things.
Thank you, Rashini. Now, I would like to ask how regarding sustainability. Now, I think it is very important about the mental sustainability, keep a good mental condition. In this regard, now we especially focus in this discussion the indoor environment sustainability. Can you give us some tips or some ways how we can maintain good mental sustainability?
Well, I would say, Vishali, few things. I think, like I mentioned to you earlier, also, if we are able to change our perspective about things, that actually solves 50% of our problem. Now, see over here, you need to understand that there are certain things that you can control, certain things you cannot control. Okay. So, for example, we can't do much about the COVID situation, but what we can do is actually stay indoors, keep our loved ones protected, keep ourselves protected. So, if death is the worst case scenario that can happen, I'm sure you can convince your mind, right, that staying indoors is the best. So, other than that, I would say gratitude is the best attitude to practice. I have said this so many times in many a forum, especially that be so grateful. Maybe you might have a whole list of complaints. I have to sit in front of the laptop. I cannot go out. I don't get to do this. I don't get to do that. I don't get to meet the people. I don't get to go out for drinks or lunches and so many things. You might say, I don't have time for myself, no time to go to the salon and then it's not open. All these things, a massive list of things. But then if you kind of look at what you actually have as an individual now, right? So I think gratitude is the best attitude to practice at times like this. Okay, let's say you have a list of things that you do not have. But let's make a list of what we have. Right? I always tell this to even little kids also. Let's make a list, right? Take a piece of paper, divide it to two, what I have and what I do not have. Right? At this very moment. Let's make a list, especially you and me. Okay. First thing, what we have. So let's say sometimes individuals think that I don't have anything. I don't have anybody, right? Let's say you feel so lonely, you feel like I don't have anybody. But then you have this person with you, right? This particular thing with you that's there for you 24/7 from the time you were born. That's your heart. When was the last time that you were grateful to your heart? Okay. That it's beating 24/7. What if your heart says, especially, I'm sick and tired of beating for this woman, I'm going to take about a 2-minute break. Gone, finish. And then if you can take a deep breath, right? Like I took a deep breath earlier, like there you go. Your lungs are functioning. How many individuals in this world at this very moment who are struggling to breathe, who are breathing through ventilators, who are fighting for oxygen? So, two things that you can be grateful of. You can see clearly, you have a nose, you can breathe, you have and smell, you have a mouth, you can talk, you have ears. All these particular parts are perfectly functioning. And how many people in this world are going through disability of any sort in that particular context? You have your legs functioning, you have your arms properly functioning. And how many individuals are there in this world, right, who go through disabilities? You are in sound mental health, right? Let's say we all go through stress and all these things and we feel depressed sometimes and all that. But still, then again, you are not mentally retarded. How many individuals are there in this world who are going through Down syndrome, who go through global development delay, right? Who are 25 years old but then has a brain of a 5-year-old? Imagine a life like that. How many individuals at this moment are suffering from conditions like cancer and in Apeksha Hospital? Imagine the life of the people around them as well. It's not just they are suffering, right? If a child is admitted, even the parents are suffering. It has become a part of their life now. So be thankful, be grateful that you don't have a chronic illness like that. You might complain the fact that my parents are fighting at home, I have this and that and all that, but you have a roof, isn't it? How many people are without houses? Right? How many are living in IDP camps? If you kind of look at the Gaza Strip now, how many people, their houses are just, on ground now. They don't have a roof above their head. Right? You have clothes to wear. You have education. You complain of online education, but still you are educating yourself. How many people are deprived of education? How many are unable to get it? You might complain the fact, I don't have a laptop, I only have a phone, but you still have a phone to get connected. We complain the fact that we can't go out to meet people, but you are given the ability to connect to a lot of people like this. Now imagine where you are and where I am. But we are so connected here, isn't it? So if you kind of look at this, if you do not have, let's say you complain saying, are you enough and done and dusted eating rice, I can't even Uber order or anything, but you still have food, isn't it? How many children in this world ask for medication because they don't want to feel hungry? So there you go. When you make a list like that, you will realize that you indeed have so much in life than the ones that you complain about. So change your mindset, right? So that is, I think, the best way to come out of it. You know, when you change your mindset, you will learn to embrace life. You'll be grateful. I tell my clients every day, make sure before you go to bed, write one thing that brought a smile to your face. Don't focus on these really big things. I tell students, here, look, don't wait till your graduation to celebrate your success. Celebrate it now, even if you got through with a quiz with utmost difficulty. If you understand a certain concept, you know, pat yourself like that. If there's nobody to give you a hug, you hug yourself. You write it, you journal it, right? And be very, very happy about the moment, because I tell people, look, you need to change the way you perceive life. Simple theory. We get so much of mental health related problems because of two things. One thing, we excessively worry about what has happened in the past, which we cannot do anything about. We excessively are fearful about what's going to happen in the future, which we have no idea, right? So the two extremes. Now imagine, Peshali, in Kung Fu Panda Master Oogway says it very beautifully. Yesterday is history. It's pointless worrying about it. The decisions that you made, you cannot change it no matter how much you worry about it. Why did I pick this subject? Why did I say yes to him? Why did I get married? Why did I do this? Why did I do that? You can't do anything because it's already made. You need to forgive your younger self for making a decision. But that's not you now. You have changed, you have grown as an individual, right? And then because let me tell you one thing. I met this individual once when I went to do a workshop, and he told me, Rasini, I don't want to talk about last year, because last year was devastating. I lost my job, right? I felt that I might end up in a mental asylum. I was so traumatized and I don't want to think about it. I said, then what happened once you lost your job? Then I said, I realized that I needed a second option in life, right? I needed to have a plan B. And then I asked them, what did you do? Then, I started a small business because I couldn't, I felt like I really hit the rock bottom when I lost the job. And I said, okay. And so I asked then, now, now you have your job back? He said, yes, I have my job back, but I have my business running as well. I said, then why don't you think about that? See, you learn something even in the most toughest way. Now let's say you hit another pandemic or some other devastation, your company goes bankrupt, but still you have a plan B. Don't you think that was the lesson that you learned? Right? You realize it's a realization. So I think that's how we should kind of learn to look at life. And then we are so afraid to make a move and take a step because we are so fearful of what's going to happen. We are so fearful of something that we never experienced, right? We are afraid for an examination that we absolutely do not know how it's going to be. You are afraid to ask a girl out thinking that she'll say no to you, right? So, but who has a guarantee about tomorrow, Peshali? You tell me. Any individual who's listening here, can you guarantee saying that you're going to live tomorrow? How many people who lived yesterday are not living and breathing today? So that's a point we should think about. I tell that then, Master Ugwe says, today is a gift. That's why it's called present. This moment is a moment you have absolute power to do anything. But then we constantly worry about what happened and what's going to happen. We forget to live the moment. So live this moment, right? At this moment, make a change in your life, make a difference. At this moment, think, you know what? I'm going to focus on my health, my well-being. I'm going to start working out. Gym's closed, I don't care, right? But I'm going to learn something from internet. I'm going to learn yoga, right? I'm going to learn, exercises, some form of a functional exercises. Because all these things are very limited beliefs that people have. I know for a fact, I work out every day because that has a strong impact on your mental health. That's one of the biggest stress busters anyone can adopt to. Right? So I would suggest workout, make sure it's a must. Sleep is essential, releases melatonin that has so many good effects. It's your anti-aging thing. If you are using anti-aging cream, stop using that and sleep more, right? It releases melatonin. You need that in your system. That reduces your chance of cancer. That reduces your chance of getting Alzheimer's one day, right? That boosts up your immunity. You need all these things. Good eating habits. Just because you have everything, you have the fridge completely packed, doesn't mean you consume everything. No, eat well, read good things. Use this time to learn something new. I mean, have that perspective. That's why I say live the moment. This moment, I'm going to learn something. This moment, I'm going to make a life-changing decision. I mean, who thought in 2016, if you answered the question, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? Imagine, right? Who thought that we'll be inside our houses? Life is so fragile, but that's the beauty of it is too, So accepting it. I mean, fundamentally, adaptability, Peshali. Darwin said the animals, right, who survive are the ones who adopt to change. Tomorrow there'll be another new normal. Day after, who knows, there'll be a very different one. But get adopted to it. Get used to it. We have that capability in us, but we are so stuck-ups that we don't want to. Right? Because we want to occupy the entire seat and sit. We don't want to be on the edge. Right? So stop dreaming to live one day, but start living in the moments. Right? Because at least you will have that within you, all those memories within you someday.
Okay, Rashini, you brought up the fruitful, the way how we can overcome it, and we need to live up on the moment and enjoy the life. So with that, now let's try to start our Q&A session. Now audience can ask some question from Rashini. You can ask from us. We have only 6 minutes remaining, so you can ask quick questions. So you are all invited to have some questions. Rashini is ready to give answers.
Oh yeah, you can put me in trouble.
Anyone interested? I'm asking to write some comments here. Then we can leave that comments and we can give certain answers for your questions. Comment section, you can comment. You can write if you have any questions. If you have any doubts, or you can ask if you want any strategies, you can contact her as well. And right now you can ask. Yeah, here I'm getting one question, Rashini. What are the tips how a divorced mother can cope up? I need a quick answer because 5 minutes more.
Okay. What are the tips?
How a divorced mother can cope up during a COVID situation?
Well, actually, divorce is one of the biggest stressors that an individual kind of goes through. I would like to request her to reach out to me personally, so I'll be able to help her out rather than in this particular forum, right? So definitely, if you could connect to me via Facebook or any other means, I think I should be able to help you out, love.
Okay, you can contact her directly. And another quick question I'm asking: how can you deal an old age group during the lockdown? Their mental down and anger management. I think it's related. You have given answers earlier, but you can give a
Well,
quick
yeah,
answer.
right.
Old age
Because
group. I mean adults. They mean.
adult. Okay, right. So actually, the thing is now one thing that they kind of face is the fact that they do not have the technology knowledge, right, in order to get themselves engaged and all that. And then adults might just see late adulthood, like they might see the younger generations being completely socially withdrawn, right, from them, spends very less time. So I think consciously, if you spend some time with them, yeah, if you get their grandchildren to spend some time with them, I mean, you can make it a habit and a point to do things. Getting them engaged with is something you can do, because as you grow older, it's pretty much stated as it's pretty much like you're raising up younger kids. So their mentality goes into that particular level, so they seek a lot of attention and love and care, okay, because that's actually slipping away from them. The whole concept of having power over something is slipping away from them. So even here, I think empathizing their situation is something you can do, right? Therefore, I think getting them involved in a lot of certain activities, even things like board games and all those things at home, if you can play them, if they are in a position to engage and play, I think that is something you should pretty much promote and do. And get them involved in work. I mean, for them, I mean, if you have parents who are in their old age, still like in their retirement age, they still have the capacity and so much of wisdom to carry on their work, right? Encourage them to write about their experiences, encourage them to get into certain things like consultancy and all those things, something that you can encourage and promote and do.
Okay, thank you, Rashini, and I'm really grateful to the audience because we are getting so much of question that feels that you are sincerely engaged with us and you have seen lack of engagement with us. So, but that now we have time to end up today's session, and I really thankful for the our keynote speaker Rashini Bandara for your time. Thank you. We join with us, and you can contact her directly as well for the further consultation. So, with that, Town Talk going to finish up today's session. Thanks for joining with us. And next session will be the entrepreneurship and related to some your career development. So stay tuned with us. With that, I'm concluding. Still then, stay safe and goodbye.
Thank you so much, Peshali, and thank you, Town Talks and Nehansa, for your kind invitation. It's great being here. And sorry, guys, if I'm unable to answer all your questions, but however, please connect to me personally. I'm on all social media platforms and on Mind His platform as well. So please, reach out to me with your concerns, and I should be able to help you out. Thank you so much, Vaishali. Thanks. Have a wonderful day and stay safe, everyone. And look after your loved ones as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rashini, being with us. Have a good day, everyone.
Bye-bye.